everyone. Thanks for joining me today. As I mentioned at the end of my last video, I wanted to go over my portfolio with you guys just so you know what it is that I'm most interested in and why. I'll just kind of do a quick summary of why I'm interested in those projects. Today I'm just going to do XRP, Ethereum, and Tezos. As you can see right now, if XRP and Ethereum are about 53-54% of my portfolio. So that's the bulk of it. And yeah, let me just jump into why. So first off, I have this video clip I'm going to play for you. It basically, yeah, it was posted on Twitter by this guy that's in the XRP community, Peter Pumpkin Eater. So this video is basically, a couple different world leaders or people with power, right, that are talking about cryptocurrency and blockchain and disruption, and they continuously make reference towards a level playing field or cryptocurrency disruption, something that's gonna this is like the next wave of technology. But they, like Christine Lagarde, you'll see at the end, she talks about how disruption's coming, but it's not going to be like your bitcoins that we've talked about the past year or two. So what is it that they're talking about, right? It's like they all know of something, but they won't actually say the word. But everything that they describe always sounds like XRP, with the level playing field and so on. I mean, that term itself is something that you hear Ripple say on their own. Their CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, has said that a lot of times whenever he's speaking publicly and so on. But so the first guy in the video is Steve Mnuchin, who's the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. Then you're going to have Mark Carney, who's the governor of the Bank of England, as well as then you're going to have the CEO of BlackRock, who BlackRock is the largest asset manager in the United States with like $7 trillion under management. And then, as I mentioned, Christine Lagarde as well. She used to be the managing director of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and now she's the president of the European Central Bank. So obviously these are high up people, and let's hear what they have to say about blockchain.
Making U.S. companies competitive. We need to create a level playing field for U.S. companies to be able to compete in the world, and they just haven't had that opportunity.
We've got European engine, we've got the Chinese engine, we've got the U.S. engine of this economy. Multipolar world, you need a multipolar currency. The question is, how do you get there? And I laid out some ideas of how you would get there.
So I think the role of the disruptors and anything that is using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto, assets, currencies or whatever, and it's far from the bitcoins that we used to talk about a year ago, that is clearly shaking the system.
And when you think about all the people who send money, they may work in one country, send money back home. They generally do that through organizations that charge 5 to 10%. Yeah. There is a need, whether it's a Libra or something else, to democratize the exchange of foreign currencies. Today, with computers and electronic market,
there shouldn't be that.
It should be 10 basis points, 5 basis points.
That
it's not
sense.
Percent. And so I actually believe the idea around Libra, I don't think we need to create a new currency, but the technology to instantaneous calibrate all the currencies, that should be done.
I think we are about to see massive disruptions, but clearly the way in which.
Okay, so that covers that, but basically just to reiterate, at least from my point of view, I just don't think that there's any crypto with a better vision, target market, and plan to make it happen. They know what they're going after, and it's this cross-border transactions. They've identified that. They position themselves to make it happen with 300 or so banking institutions that they partner with. as well, or have as customers, clients, and so on. And also, you see the Bitcoin community will argue and say that Ripple XRP is centralized shitcoin for the banks. Okay, yeah, cool. That's it used to be a fun argument and so on, but now it's kind of childish at this point because let me just show you this quick graph. So this is basically the Bitcoin mining hash rate distributed throughout the nations. The electricity consumption, but either way, this is going to incorporate with the hash rate. So as you can see, China is at 65%, with the United States being a distant second at 7%. So if you're going to argue about centralization, then I think that the Bitcoin community should look in the mirror. Like, can you please address this for me? How do you explain this, and how do you not see this as centralized? Because it is. So I don't know where their argument what they're thinking, but whatever. But this all stems from the fact that China too controls the creation of the majority of the miners, the miner manufacturing. So they create the new miners, like they get the next version, and then they use it, and they use it first, right? They use it and not attack, but they mine the Bitcoin network. And what that does is increase the difficulty. As you mine more and more Bitcoin, the difficulty continually increases. But once they're done with that equipment, it's obsolete or whatever. Not quite obsolete, but they got to use it first. Then they'll send it. Then they'll start selling it to the U.S. and other countries. So that's how it works right now. What else do we have here? Oh, I want to show you. Also, so Ripple, earlier this year, they were valued at $10 billion, or sorry, December of last year. And so obviously there's demand there. They're still a private company, but all the accredited investors, they're seeing this company as being worth 10 billion, right? So obviously they see that there's value there, and I wanted to compare that with all the top IPOs. So these are the 9 biggest IPOs you've ever seen. Ripple will go public. It's going to happen, and I think when it does, you'll see them on this list because there's no other pending company that would make it, I don't think. But anyway, so first you have Alibaba as the highest. I don't know if you know who they are, but it's basically the China's version of Amazon. Then you have Visa at 20 billion, General Motors 18, Facebook at 16, AT&T at 10, Uber at 9. What a Kraft as well at 8.6. So what all these companies have in common, they're all known worldwide, right? So Ripple's going to eventually join this list, I believe. So they obviously haven't captured the market that they're trying to, but they've positioned themselves as best as they can to be able to do that. So, we'll see what happens. That's pretty much all I had to say about XRP, though, so let me get on to Ethereum. So with Ethereum, I wanted to first show you, this is the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem, all of the different applications that are being built on top of Ethereum. The list goes on and on and on and on. And my point here is that Ethereum is being used. It has utility. It has the most projects being built on top of it. And it's got massive first mover advantage. So obviously when it comes to crypto, you should just follow the developers. If a platform is being developed on, it's obviously going to have a higher percentage chance of success, at least in the short term. So just to add on to that as well, this is the CoinMarketCap page. You can flip this tab here, the cryptocurrencies tab, and go down to tokens only and the full list. This will show you this shows you every token. So these are all tokens that are built on top of different platforms, and as you can see, Ethereum is the #1 platform over and over and over for being used. You have a few random ones in there, like Tron with BitTorrent. Like, who cares about that? It's just Stellar with Yrex. Neo with Nash. So Nash is on my portfolio list, and I'll be excited to share that one with you. But that's, even in the top 100, you just don't see any other platform having even one project that people like. You know, and when it comes to Ethereum, you know, you got Chainlink. That's on my list as well. Going to talk about that. You have Crypto.com, which is a company that has a Visa credit card. You can load and spend crypto. MakerDAO, Big Deal, 0x, Basic Attention. You know, even Binance, you know, who used to be an Ethereum token, now they have their own chain. They still have a Binance token on Ethereum. So it's being used. That's the point, right? It's being used over and over. What else do I have for you? Oh yeah, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. I've talked about this before, but basically, you know, it's a community of companies that they're working together and they're working on top of Ethereum. So you can see you have Accenture here, who's also a big Ripple investor, BNY Mellon, Intel, JP Morgan, Microsoft, Banco Santander, also a Ripple client or customer. So, I mean, you'll see Ripple and Ethereum and a lot of these different things, but like these are big companies that have the money that are working on top of Ethereum. So, I mean, we don't get to see anything other than what's on the surface, and what's on the surface is that all the big companies are working on top of Ethereum. So I don't think you need to investigate much deeper than that. This one is got the best chance of winning or succeeding as any of them. Also, to add on to it, Ethereum is switching to proof of stake, which is going to happen, supposed to happen third quarter of this year. I have a video at the end of this video that explains the difference as quickly and simple as possible for the difference between proof of stake and proof of work. But basically, I think if Ethereum is able to pull this off, switch to proof of stake, then that alone is going to cause a bull run in the market. You know, time and time again, when the crypto market moves, it's typically because there's an innovation that happened, or things kind of all flood together and all happen at once. And I think if Ethereum switches to proof of stake successfully, then you're going to see people just start to chase proof of stake coins. Just to kind of give an example of how this has already happened, Ethereum in 2017, they were the smart contract platform that everyone wanted to be like. So it was like all the new investors were looking for the next Ethereum. So they were chasing Cardano and Neo, you know, something I was doing myself, as I've talked about, or EOS. These are all different smart contract platforms that were supposedly going to be Ethereum killers, which didn't happen. And what I don't think any of those projects it will happen for, especially if they're able to get the proof of stake accomplished. But yeah, I mean, I think this could be the next wave, things that happen. You know, if they accomplish this, it's going to be really hard to dethrone them because they'll have it all, basically. So let me jump into Tezos. Tezos, similar argument. You know, they have a lot of different applications being built on them. You can go to tezosprojects.com to see this. You know, but basically, you know, people are building on top of Tezos. What makes Tezos unique is it already is proof of stake. And I guess an argument could be made that, you know, what if Ethereum's never able to capture proof of stake? Then Tezos is already there. They made it. So I think that would make them jump, you know, significantly more. And also a difference between the two, you know, when it comes to investing, Tezos has a lot more upside as far as percentage wise because it's very low market cap compared to both Ethereum and XRP. So I think it has a lot of room to grow. But kind of getting back on track. So as I mentioned, people are building on Tezos. You know, you can see there's Tezos Japan, Tezos Korea, Tezos Ukraine, Southeast Asia. So there's just a lot of different teams, and they're all scattered around the world. So I mean, that's just good to see progress. And just to give some examples of different projects that are being built, there's Alliance Investments, who's the leading property developer in Manchester, UK. And so what they're going to do is they're tokenizing real estate in the UK. And they've also partnered with T0. And T0 is down here. T0 is a blockchain company that was founded by the owner of Overstock. I don't know if you've heard of that company, but it's a pretty large online retail company. They've been into crypto for a while. So, but anyway, T0 Alliance, they're bringing $300 million in real estate to the Tezos blockchain. So what that's going to do is allow for people to own fractions of real estate property, and if it's tokenized, you're going to be able to trade it all over the world instantly on exchanges, which is something that you can't do right now. So, I mean, the closest thing to that is called a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust. And those are kind of like a pool of different real estate investments, and you kind of like a mutual fund. You just get ownership and fractional ownership in all the different funds or all the different properties. But that's not the same as being able to own one individual property and a small portion of it, right? So, and this is the future of finance, the way you're seeing things are going to go. But yeah, the tokenization of real estate is a big deal, and obviously it's being done on Tezos. So, also one last thing to add about Tezos that I'm really bullish on is that it's being added to Coinbase. It's the first proof of stake crypto to be added to Coinbase, and right now it's the only one. There will be more added, but Coinbase is also an investor in Tezos, Coinbase Venture, I believe. So they're going to have that first mover advantage once again. They have that name established, and right now, if you go on to Coinbase, it's the one and only one that you can buy and gain 4 to 5% return just to stake. So you can get compound interest on top of all that eventually. So, if you're holding. What else did I have here for us? Oh, also, just to add to that, if, Tezos is funded, right? They have the funding, they have money, just as the end of January this year, they had 32,000 Bitcoin in their foundation. And, obviously they have investors that will be ready to give them more money as time goes on. So, I mean, so any foundation that doesn't have money, right, that's, developers aren't going to be there, no one's building on it, it's going to fall flat. But right now, they're proof of stake, they're kind of a one of a kind in that aspect, being the only one on Coinbase, and they're funded and they're being built on. So those are the main points with Tezos. But, lastly, I just have a quick video to show you the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. So, just watch that, and then my next video, I'm going to do Elastos, Nex, and Chainlink. So stay tuned for that as well. Thanks.
You might have heard about Ethereum working to move from consensus based on proof of work to one based on proof of stake. In this video, we'll cover the main differences between proof of work and proof of stake. We'll also briefly cover a definition of mining, the process through which new coins are released to the network. Proof of work requires nodes on the network to perform a complex mathematical puzzle, also called mining, as a way of verifying the legitimacy of transactions on the network. This mathematical puzzle has a key feature, asymmetry. The work must be hard for the miner to solve, but easy for the network to check. All the network miners compete to be the first to find a solution through brute force that requires a huge number of attempts. As a reward for verifying these transactions, they're paid cryptocurrency from the network. Once verified, the transactions are placed in a block and appended to the public blockchain. The difficulty of this puzzle increases proportionally to the amount of computing power in the network that is working on the puzzles. That is to say, the more miners there are, the more difficult the network makes it to verify transactions and earn the reward. The competitive nature of the difficulty increase incentivizes miners to optimize their ability to solve the puzzle, and thus, optimize their ability to verify transactions. This makes maintaining the integrity of the network a competitive system with rewards for those that do it well. In order to take over the network, one would have to control 51% of the computing power of the network. Given how large major blockchains are, that would be incredibly difficult, though not impossible. So what is proof of stake, and how is it any better? Proof of stake is still an algorithm, and the purpose is the same as proof of work, but the process is quite different. Unlike proof of work, where the algorithm rewards miners who solve a mathematical problem that creates a new block, the creator of a new block is chosen from a pool of users that have staked a certain amount of cryptocurrency. This means that in the proof of stake system, there is no puzzle to complete, and so no reward for doing so. Instead, the miners take a fee from every transaction. This also means that because nobody is competing to solve every block, there's no massive energy requirement. The penalty for trying to harm the network is the possibility of losing the money you've staked, which could easily be upwards of $10,000. In order to take over a proof-of-stake network, one would need to own 51% of the supply of the cryptocurrency on that chain. This would be a prohibitively expensive undertaking for any major network, and is less likely to happen than controlling 51% of the computing power, something that can already be achieved by mining pools. Proof-of-work miners need a lot of energy to solve their puzzle. Verifying one Bitcoin transaction with proof-of-work requires the same amount of electricity as 1.57 American households use in a day. Proof-of-stake lifts the massive energy requirement from the network in favor of a monetary penalty for bad actors. Developers worried about this energy problem want to switch to the proof-of-stake method for a greener and cheaper form of consensus.
Alright, that's it guys. Thanks for watching. Like I said, stay tuned for my next video. Going to be about Chainlink, Elastos, and Nex. Alright, I appreciate it.